Okay, we're now sitting up in the front of the car. Just trying to get the screen nice and clear for you to see. Okay, I've put my foot on the brake pedal now, so there's a few more fields showing there on the phone. This is the Android phone. Really, the iOS device shows you all the same data, but it's a little bit more clunky to use, a little bit more unreliable. The OBD dongle that I've got in the back, I don't know if I mentioned it before, I'd leave that device sitting out, poking out from underneath, because sometimes it glitches and you do need to unplug it and plug it back in again. I think I did mention that before, but I forgot. I just wanted to mention that again. So best to leave that device sticking out from behind that little dash panel back there, just in case. Sometimes you have trouble connecting your phone to it. Just try unplugging, plugging it back in again, letting it reset, and that won't upset your Bluetooth pairing. It will just power down the device and let it power back up again, and it will, that usually fixes any sort of glitches you have with it. So also, you can also try turning Bluetooth off and back on again on your phone, and sometimes that can fix the glitches. But the Android app is much more reliable. It's controlling the Bluetooth handshake with the device within the app. So you're not relying on the phone. You don't need to go in and pair it first. You can just go straight into the app. It'll find the adapter. It's much more simple to use. And the Android app is customizable. So your little gauges here, this is all customizable. And I'll run through that. On the right hand side here, you've got some options. You can make the gauges bigger or smaller. So we can go bigger, smaller. We can go even smaller. But they can get a bit small to read, just depends how good your eyesight is. So, whoa. Get that back up there. So I prefer to just have them here, and then you can tend to fit all the ones you want in the one screen so that you can see them all. I think it has a recording function down here. I haven't used that. I think if you want to record something, you're better off doing a screen recording on your phone and saving that video file. That's probably the best way to do it. I'm not going to go through everything within this app today. I think I can, the video is going to get a bit too long. I just wanted to show you the basic functions and how to customize the gauges and what you can get from this app, what information you can see. For someone like me that really needs to understand how something works, I get a kick out of this app. I love reading all the data on. I love getting in and just seeing where the battery temperature is. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to be doing this, but a technical person like me, I really just like to see the car working, seeing what it's up to, appreciating the design, and I get a lot from it. So if you're a technical person, you'll love the info you get from this. And to be honest, it's a pretty cheap thing to do. And I think if you did get troubles with the car down the track, which would be pretty rare, you can then sort of help look at that yourself and say, okay, well, you can compare it, search online, and find out what other people are seeing and see if it's normal or not. Or anyway, it's a great tool. So what we're doing, this is the data flowing around the CAN bus system of the car through all the wiring. This app through the dongle is capturing that information and interpreting it into these gauges, showing you temperatures, voltages, power, torque. I've got a few things I like to see here. I like to see the rated range left, and which is based off the average consumption of the car, and the max output in kilowatts down here. You can see 252. So that's the max output kilowatts from the battery. The motor on this is, I think it's 239 or 240 kilowatt rear motor on this car, ton of power. And so that's the max current from the motor. So there's no limitation at the moment. I'm at 94.7%. You can see the outside temperature. We can see the temperature at the battery inlet. So you can see here a few things going on. This gives you a really good picture of what the car is doing. You can see the battery is quite warm, but as I said, you know, it's a warm day here in Sydney, and I'm running the aircon, which takes heat out of the cabin and puts it into the battery to heat the battery up. And you can see that the battery inlet, we're running the AC at the moment, it's up at 45. So for the reverse, if I was to now put the cabin on, the cabin heating on, it would be drawing heat from the battery, and you would see the battery temperature come down. So that's the part of the efficiency of this car is sharing the heating and the cooling system among the different systems to be a lot more efficient and have less go to waste, less go out to the atmosphere. Keep that to a bare minimum. So we have different fields here. So you saw here, it's making the gauges bigger and smaller. We can then change the gauge type. So if you don't like those other little things going around, you've got a few different gauge types here. I find most of them hard to read. That one there is not too bad. You can see a fair bit of information there. I prefer these sort of standard gauges here. So what else have we got on that tab? You can reset trip, new trip. So this can log. There's a tab in here which is logging some data. You can create new tabs here. So we got all these tabs up the top: performance, speed, temps, HVAC system. And we can fully customize that, which I'll show you in a second. We can delete tabs. I'm going to show you now what this paste feature is. So the paste feature, I can go to any of these tabs. I can go battery or miscellaneous. We might go to, that's the total one. So total, that's where we can reset the totals. So if you reset on a trip, you can see how much energy you've regenerated through regen braking. You can see the kilometers you've done. Few other things will come up there, and it's logging that data as you go along. So that's what the reset trip. It should reset those. It doesn't always work. You know, I haven't been able to get that to work a lot, but you can see there's some, yep, there it goes. It's resetting now. So then you can do that before a trip. Sometimes it takes a couple of goes to get all those things back to zero. Yeah, anyway, that's a little bit clunky. I don't really use that. Oh, here we go, the trip tab reset. Okay, so total, sorry, that was I was in the wrong tab there. So you can go here and look at all. Say you want to have a look at battery current. Say I want to put that back on that first screen. It's a thing that I want to have up there on my customize tab. Hold your finger down on the gauge that you want to copy into the other thing in the other tab. Press copy. I can now go back to any of these tabs. Go performance. Go back to this one. Bring down this drop down and say paste. So we go to the bottom here now. It's a bit hard to see down there. What you can do is highlight any of these fields. Should get back out of there. Back to performance. So we can highlight that battery current, and I can change where its position is. Press these arrows so you can see what battery current is now there. In that point, just go out and back. We can see battery current, 4 amps. So very little going on here at the moment. Hopefully I haven't just copied across the 12 volt battery amps, but I can hold my finger down there and delete that gauge as well. Main thing was I'm just showing you how to customize. So same thing here. You can see you can move them all around, but this is all the data I really like to see. So I've shown you that now. These are just some standard sort of settings. You can choose which car you've got. You can pick if you've got a Bluetooth device. A few different options. These chop and change a little bit too, depending on things. A few things here. I haven't really had to go in here much at all. You can factory reset all tabs back. Get rid of all your customizations. If you want to go back to there. Really, it's quite simple. I recommend just downloading it, setting everything up and having a play around with it and see what interests you. Different people are going to be interested by different different things here. A lot of different stuff here. There's battery power. See, I'm sure that, I was looking at the battery current before. I just couldn't get that to vary much. As you drive, that changes more when you've got the higher current flowing through to your motor and stuff. You got odometer. It's giving you kilowatt hours for the nominal full pack, 53.4 kilowatt hours. So you can see there's an energy buffer. So when you get to 0%, you've still got a 2.4 kilowatt hour energy buffer. So that can still, even at 0%, you still do have some, range left in the car, but you don't want to push it down to that too far down that point, or the car will shut down after a certain point. You don't want to fully discharge the battery. You can do some damage to it. You can see here I'm pretty well charged. I've got 50.6 kilowatt hours remaining. So if you wanted to calculate how much more range you had yourself and not rely on the car, you can say, okay, we'll look at the average kilowatt hours for the trip currently you have on the freeway or wherever you are, and then work out how many kilowatt hours per kilometre, and then do the sums. And you can work that out. So here's some data here. I've only had the car 6 months, so I don't really have a lot of data there at the moment, and a lot of that were in COVID lockdown. So I really just mostly been doing work commutes and a couple of, just a few smaller, longer trips. So a few short trips out of Sydney, but I'm hoping to do a lot more longer distance driving soon. Make some videos on those trips. So here you can have a look at, there's just so much stuff to look at. I'd have to make another video and just go through each of these things that I've discovered is useful, but this screen here you can see, this is the main things I like to have up there all the time. And it's pretty interesting. So there's some cool stuff. I'll show you some things here that you can see just while I'm sitting here parked. We can look here and say, okay, well, max regen power. So this is to show you, okay, if your regen braking isn't very strong, you can have a look here and say, okay, well, it's limited, so it's doing what it should. So at the moment it's limited to 85 kilowatts. So you don't get that. It varies depending on what speed the car's doing and the braking force. So you obviously don't want to lock the back wheels up at high speed, backing off. So the car is in control of where that is. This is purely just the max regen power available. But it does depend on the conditions. Most of the time, I will see it at 65 kilowatts as regen power, and easily a one-pedal driving car. So you'll see things there. We can see the rear stator temp of the motor, the stator of the motor, and that's where a lot of that is shared. And you'll see here, I'll show you how the car heats the battery. I'll navigate to a supercharger in a second, and you'll see what happens with all of that. Cell temp mid, there's a couple of different battery temperatures. I find this is a good average one, so I've put that gauge there. I've got the battery inlet temperature, so that's the temperature of the coolant as it's entering into the battery. So generally that's depending on where the octo valve is, it depends on where that fluid is coming from, but a lot of the time that will be coming from the rear stator. So it'll come from the motor, and it'll be sharing the heat from the motor and putting that into the battery to heat it up. Other times that water will have flown through the heat exchanger for the cabin, and it'll bring taking heat from the cabin and putting it into the battery. So we might just have a look at a few things here. I'll navigate to a supercharger and let's have a look at what it does. So navigate, charging, supercharger at Macquarie Centre. It's navigating there now, and it's preconditioning the battery. So let's watch here. See the 2 kilowatts? You can see the rear motor is powering the motor. So what it's doing is putting current through the stator in a way that doesn't drive the motor forward. So we're not working against the brakes here or anything. You can see there's no torque being generated from the motor. We're purely just powering the stator and powering those windings in the outer part of the motor there to get them hot, but they're not actually reacting with the magnetic field of the rotor part of the motor. So you can see here that's going to heat up where we're running current through those coils and heating them up, and we're transferring that heat into the battery. So you can see the rear stator temp going up. It's at 49 degrees now. It got up there pretty quick. What I can also hear is the heat pump going, and having a look at the battery power here, we can see it's sharing. We've got 2.5 kilowatts of that is going to the motor, and then the roughly other 2.5 kilowatts is running the heat pump. You'll see the rear stator temp will get up to around 60. We'll start to see this cell temp of the battery go up. Battery inlet, you can see it's already at 45 degrees, and that will start distributing that heat through the cells of the battery. And that will come up and up and up. You can see now, look at, we're at 5 kilowatts, so we're really working that heat pump. And I can hear it ramping up, and that'll probably get up to 7 or 8 kilowatts. So if we go and have a look now, we go to temps. Here in this temp screen, we can see, I think it was in this screen, target temperatures. So see here, target. It's trying to get the battery up to 56 degrees. You can see the battery inlet now is up to 50, and it'll hold there. And this is how it heats your battery up for when you're going to a supercharger. It also does this same thing when it's heating up the battery when you're preconditioning your car. So if you precondition your car, it's doing this the same way. You can see there, we can look at the flow of the coolant through the battery, 12 litres per minute. So that's quite a good flow. So we've got a couple of different pumps there. Another video I want to do, I'm going to take the frunk out of the car and just show you how compact this whole heating and cooling system for this car is. Very minimal. Minimal hoses, piping, wiring, pumps. Try and keep it minimal. The less components you have in the car, the less electrical connections, the less complex it is, the more reliable it will be. So here we can see the octa valve is at 125 degrees. And as we do different functions in the car, that will change depending on where it needs to route the coolant. So you can see here at the moment, cell temp mid 36.5. It doesn't heat up that quickly. You know, you need to navigate to a supercharger at least half an hour before you get there, just to give that battery time to heat up. You can't just do this 10 minutes before you get to a supercharger. It's really not going to work, and you're then going to take energy away from your charging session to heat the battery up. Instead of, that energy would normally have gone into the battery. So look here, battery inlet's now at 57 degrees, so pretty hot. You wouldn't be able to hold your hand on that. And we're slowly seeing that battery temperature ramp up. So once it gets the battery to about 40 degrees, it will start, it'll turn the preconditioning off. For 45 degrees, one of the two, I can't remember which one. So look at these target temperatures here. They're not active. I don't think it's going to get the battery to 55 degrees. It's not going to do that. Or maybe when it's supercharging, and you can see it'll actively cool the battery when it gets up too high as well. So now if I cancel that navigation to the supercharger, cancel that trip now, look at all those target temperatures come down. So once I get the battery back down to 30 degrees, it will actively try and cool at 46 degrees. And so you've got the PT is powertrain. So it's trying to keep the powertrain down to 30, like passive, just driving around. And it will actively try and cut in cooling when those systems are at 45 degrees. So what it's trying to do most of the time is to just get rid of the heat out of the powertrain and the battery through sharing it with other parts of the car, say the cabin. And I can just hear everything winding back down again. So it'll now also be trying to cool the battery back down. I'll just go back to this performance tab. So you can see there we're still drawing a fair bit. So it'll now be throwing the AC on to try and cool it down. So you can see battery inlets at 60. That will start coming down. The rear stator temp should start to see these things come down. Unless it's locked up on me. So another video I want to show you is when you're driving, just you watch how quickly it can cool that motor down. Okay, you can see there the battery inlet temperature is coming down. So it's trying to do it as efficiently as possible. So as it's cooling the battery, okay, I'm going to try another thing. I'm going to turn the heater, turn the cabin temperature up to high. You can see that heat pump ramping up. Look at that battery inlet come down. Look at it taking heat from the battery and trying to put that into the cabin. I've turned it right up to hot, so it's obviously running the heat pump as well, but look at it pull the heat from the battery to try and keep your cabin, to keep the cabin warm. You can see there it's going to sort of settle that down at about 30 degrees, or it will try and do that. So you can see if I go the other way, put the cabin on super cool, put it down to 18 degrees, you'll also see the heat being taken out of the cabin and going back into the battery. Just turn that down because it's getting quite noisy. So you can see here, that was just one example. This tool enables you to learn how the car is working. And you can see the genius in the design of this car. Pretty cool. So guys, I might end the video here. The main purpose of this video here was to show you how to connect this tool up. Give you a brief look at the info you can see. You know, we can go to all gauges. You can see here there's a lot of data. There's average consumptions, there's a lot more temperature readings. This would be another video, but you can start to see functions come in. There's some of the headlight data here. People have found it's a bit of a community thing. So a lot of people are doing taking a dump of data out of the CAN bus system of the car and then trying to decipher what each of the signals are that are flowing around and trying to identify them. Once they identify more and more signals within the car, they can then be added here. So there's some pretty smart people going through and working out what each signal is. So there's no list of what all these signals are. Tesla don't release a list and say, yes, you know, this identifier in the CAN bus signal is the temperature of the front left brake. You know, they don't give that. Someone has worked pretty hard and you know, to interpret all of this data and produce this app. It's a fantastic tool. So guys, hope you got something out of that, and you know, I really enjoyed doing this video. This has been one of the, you know, one of my favorite parts of the car, and you know, like a few other things with this car, really inspired me to start doing these videos and sharing the technical info. As I said, you know, at the moment I'm working with gearboxes, power shift transmissions. You know, they've got electronic controls and things. So at the moment, this is very similar to what I'm doing for work. I'm a troubleshooter, and that's the angle I'm coming from. But you know, while you're troubleshooting, you can really take a great appreciation for the work that has gone into designing the products. And you know, with the Tesla Model 3, I've been so impressed with the design so far and how it works. And every time we have an update, something gets improved, and you can see that in the data here. You know, you can watch when you precondition the car. I've seen they adjust where the car preconditions to, and the temperature the battery gets preconditioned to, and you can see those things being constantly improved. And you know, to make these cars better in all sorts of weather conditions around the world. So once again, I'm here in Sydney, and you know, battery temperature, unless I'm fast charging, isn't really something I need to worry about. But if you live somewhere where it's -20, -30, I think really with no matter what car you're driving, whether it was an ICE engine car or an electric car, there is some preparation to be doing that sort of thing in that environment. But here in Australia, we just got to worry about hot days. But it's a trade-off. You know, you don't need to stand in the freezing cold to fill your car up with fuel either with an electric car. So yeah, a bit of a trade-off. Anyway, guys, that'll be it for today. If you got any questions, put in the comments. Also in the description, I'm going to put links to, you know, a few links in there, and I'll put a bit of a story in there as well. So on this. Okay, guys, I'll catch you next video. Thanks.